Another month down, and it's time for a new mini set and a new season in DC Dual Forge, which is super exciting, as it's always an exciting time when we get new cards, and this time a new meta? Anyways, let's go through each of the new cards releasing, give them our star rating, and talk about what we picture this new meta bringing. First up, we have our new leader, which is Black Manta. After Black Manta damages an enemy leader, destroy that many cards from the top of your opponent's deck. A 3-charge leader gets 5 attacks, so every time you hit the face, you mill 5 cards, which is pretty good. If nothing else, we have another Anarchy and probably a new deck archetype enter somewhere in the meta. Let's go over the mill package real quick and we'll see where we think this shakes out. So for this mill package, while we do have Unending Ruin already, we now have Chimera, which is a bronze 3/3, destroy 3 cards in your opponent's deck, then Chimera transforms into a random destroyed bronze or silver recruit. This is a pretty decent card as it is a bronze 3/3, so it checks the stat box. It is definitely one that you heavily target whenever they drop it. If they do drop this turn 1, 3/3, and they go first, 3/3 on turn 1 when they go first is going to be very hard to clear. And when this pops up as a silver recruit, that is a lot of value and definitely is something that you want to deal with. Being as how it is at the start of your turn, I doubt you get this effect more than once, and you only get it once because it transforms into probably not Chimera for the second activation. So pretty good. And with that, we also get Piracy, which is a resourceless, a free card. Destroy 5 cards in your opponent's deck, then put a destroyed gold card into your hand. So pretty good. However, I don't know if the mill package or the mill archetype is going to be a tier 1 deck. I picture it somewhere in the middle of the road. While it will definitely see play, which is good that there will be a new deck archetype out there running around, I don't think it's going to be one of those tier 1 decks, because when you're playing some of these cards that you want to mill your opponent with, and you really only have Piracy and Chimera, as your leader ability is going to do the rest with possibly Unending Ruin, I don't know if 1, there is enough support for you to mill their whole deck, and 2, including these into an Anarchy list is saying that you now have to run 4 less good Anarchy cards, and there is a lot of good Anarchy cards. And because of that, I again think the mill deck and the mill archetype will be very middle of the road. It might see some high level play, but in the end, I don't think it's going to be able to compete with the decks such as Aquabats or possibly the Black Adam decks that we'll talk about here soon. So I'm going to give both of these cards 3 stars for that reason. Moving on, as Might is getting 3 different cards, which is exciting. The first one up will be the silver cost 3/3 Dolphin, Guard, Deploy. Dolphin gets 2/2 for each friendly sea creature. I think this card is good on face value, but I don't think it makes the cut in the decks that are going to want to run this. There might be times where you do get to play this as a 7/7 for silver, which is again good stats for the cost, but that's saying you hold your leader ability, you play this with Atlanta, which we'll go over next, and then you play the Dolphin and get 2/2 for all your 2 sea creatures you have out there. A lot of times this will just be a silver 5/5 taunt, and at that point, why not just run steel? So I think this will get some play, but overall this is probably the worst card that they're printing. Easy 1, but we'll give it 2 stars for some experimentation. Next up is one of the cards that is going to continue to see play long in the future, as I think Aquaman Batman is one of those evergreen decks, and that is the Gold Cars Atlanta. Deploy, give your sea creatures everywhere +2 attack, and summon a sea creature. And as she is a 5/5, I think this will slot into the impending Aquaman Black Adam deck as well, as giving your sea creatures +2 attack And on top of Aquaman already giving sea creatures more, that almost guarantees that this will summon a sea creature that is 5 attack or more, which is really good. At worst case, even when we run this in Batman Aquaman, it is a 5/5 summon a sea creature. So that's 2 minions for 1 cost. The 5/5 stat line on the gold standalone really isn't too bad, but giving it that sea creature and the fact that by the time you play this, you will have probably activated Aquaman twice. So that means everything will be plus 2/2 better when you summon your free sea creature. This is a great card. I expect it to slot right into an already established tier 1 deck, and it will also see play in these 5 or more archetypes that will begin to pop up. I think this is a very easy, very safe 5-star card. Next up is a little bit more might support. This is a good card, and this is Volko, a bronze 2/2. Deploy, give your other recruits +1/+1. That's pretty good. That's just baseline better than Wildcat. So a little bit of power creep, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I do see Volko seeing some play. However, I expect to see the same amount of play as a Wildcat would see. While this one might have a little bit more utility as you can give all your recruits 1/1, by the time you build a board and you're able to play this and give your recruits 1/1, I don't know how effective it's going to be. Still a really good card. I can also see it pop up in the Wonder Woman Anarchy list that like to flood the board a little bit to buff the creatures. Volko overall just a really solid card. Even the 2/2 body isn't that bad, but the +1 to everything is pretty good. I can see this making it in a few lists. I don't know if it's going to make it into any of the tier 1 decks. However, we'll definitely see this card running around. 3 stars. Tyranny gets the last 4 cards, and they all appear to want to fit into the 5 or more deck that is coming. First up is Neris, which is a gold 5/7 with Aura. After a friendly recruit with 5 or more attack is KO'd, Neris gets +2/+2. So that's pretty good. It is a 5/7, a good thick body that gets bigger when you trade in your 5 or mores. This is especially good with cards like Mara and summoning the tidal waves, which are 5 or more that will always die. So there's a lot of different scenarios where I think this gets played and becomes a 7/9 that can get bigger. That seems pretty good. I think this could slot into some Tyranny decks. This can also slot into obviously the 5 or more deck. The question is, will this gold make the cut? And that's what I'm not sure on. While it is definitely pretty good and it is a 5 or more card in itself, I don't know if that deck needs the extra firepower. I'm just not quite sold on if this card actually makes the list. And I think that's the biggest thing holding it back, is the grotesque amount of top end that Tyranny and Might already have. So I'm just not sure, and for that reason, I'm going to give this card a conservative 3 stars. The Dead King's Scepter. This card is the big money maker, I think, and this is what is going to really push that Aquaman, Black Adam, or even just that Black Adam archetype over the top. A gold, sacrifice a recruit with 5 or more attack to summon trenches in your empty spaces. The trench is a 5/2 guard card, which 5/2 guard is pretty ridiculous considering you'll probably have 3 up front ideally, as it will be your blockers, and if nothing else, that is going to charge Black Adam 4 times. If you played a 5-cost minion to activate this, that charges half of Black Adam in 1 card. That's absolutely excellent. Even if you don't use this to charge Black Adam, flooding your board with 5/2s is really strong. Even in Tyranny lists that don't care about the 5 or more, there are plenty of 5 attack minions that they'd love to trade with and then sacrifice, for example Brainiac, and then draw a card and fill their board with 5/2s. That card is absolutely good, and I think that the Dead King's Scepter helps define the coming Black Adam archetype, the 5 or more archetype that we're going to see running around. I think this is the card that really makes it run and pushes it over the edge. I think this is a 5-star card, as I expect Black Adam to have at least one tier 1 deck in the upcoming meta. Next up, we have Siren, a silver cost 4/5 parting shot, summon a tidal wave. That's really good. You play this on a silver turn, you don't even need your Mara out, you trade with it next time or your opponents run into it, and you summon a 5/1. That is pretty good. I mean, stats for the cost, you can look at this as a silver 9/6, which is absolutely excellent. As long as you're not appetited, these tidal waves will really matter, and it gives Black Adam an extra charge in its parting shot, which is exactly what we're all going to be wanting to do coming up soon. So I think Siren definitely has a place. I don't know if she's going to be as meta-defining as the Dead King Scepter, but overall this is a strong card, good stats for the cost, and overall I don't see a lot of problems with it. Best case scenario, you play this and trade with it on your next turn, and then you get a 5/1 to trade with something else, so you can possibly clear 2 minions on their side of the board with your 1 silver card. And as a lot of people are going to be wanting to run 5 or more attack minions, you're going to trade with this a lot and it's going to die. So I think this is a good card. Again, I don't think it's going to be as defining as the Dead King Scepter. 4 stars. The final card is going to be Atlan, a gold 6/7 end exhaust enemies in Atlan's lane. This card is a excellent control tool. Whether we see it in the 5 or more deck or not, this card will want to be run by a lot of Tyranny decks, I think. Having the ability to drop this in the middle and exhaust their entire middle lane, leaving them with really only 2 spots until they can clear your 6/7, which is a pretty good sized body. This card has a lot of application, I think. I think control decks are going to want to run this. We can see the 5 or more deck running it to delay them a little bit to get even more work out of your Black Adam and the rest of the things you have. It takes out 2 board spaces for them while it only costs you 1. Overall, this is just a really solid card. I really expect this card to see a lot of play. The only holdback is, again, that Tyranny Gold cost spot. There is just so much good stuff in that spot. So is Atlan going to be good enough to carve itself out at least a 1-of index? I don't know if you run 2, but you could run 2. You could even run 2 in this in your Zod deck and completely shut their board down and delay them even further, which is really good, especially if you are trying to control the board or set up more things down the road. I overall just think this is a really strong card. I expect this card to be seen in a lot of decks. I think that it's going to be just as popular as Starro is, and if we remember the Suicide Squad mini set, Starro is really the one card that gets ran really heavy, and almost every control deck runs Starro now. So I can see Atlan also filling a similar niche. So I think overall, I do think this is going to be another 5-star card. I think this has just so much playability in it that between the big body stats and its really good effect, we're going to be seeing a lot of Atlan in the future. That's it for the new cards. We will get one more new card when the set releases and we get the new comic along with it. So we will look out for that review, but overall, I am very excited about this new set, this new meta that we are approaching. We, for a while, have really been clamoring to get a good meta shakeup, and we are definitely about to receive this. While Aquabats will still be running around and it is only getting better, I think there's going to be enough control options to help keep that mid-range spot down a little bit. I think that Aquabats, again, it's evergreen. It might always be around. It does get stronger, but there are a lot of other decks get a lot of tools, and a lot of other decks are also going to get significantly stronger as they keep printing cards and as this mini set in particular hits. Definitely be on the lookout. Mill will be an interesting one. I, again, don't think it's going to be a tier 1 deck, but it's going to be out there. So someone will find a way to really abuse the Mill cards, and even still, and I can even see Black Manta being ran with a lead from the front, and you hit the hero power and you mill 13 cards from their deck. That could even be the big finisher for that. You combine that with Bizarro and you don't have to worry about those pesky blockers. You combine it with Zod, and you get a free lane to hit them in the face and mill their deck. So I can definitely see there's a lot of options where mill could be really good. However, it's going to take some setup, and I don't know how consistent it's going to be. Regardless, I am happy to have a new archetype join the meta and continue to diversify what honestly I feel like is a pretty diverse meta already. Be on the lookout for all the fun new concoctions we managed to cook up with decks in DC Dual Force, and I will see you on the other side of this mini set.